Rusty Lake, a David Lynch-inspired indie game studio, loves to play without opening the cards. I've been mostly feeling this in the lore of the universe, where even the most basic and important things cause controversy. As far as I know, for a long time the universal answer to all questions was, we prefer to tell the story through games. And while in the lore you can at least catch on to something, the development process was tightly hidden by the fog of war for a long time. And it's more the more surprising to look at 2021, the year when the developers broke radio silence and opened a peephole into the internal kitchen. Over 2 years, the past within creation has been followed by a whole series of devlogs, drastically clarifying not only the few bits of info we usually get on new games, but also the process as a whole. My name is Nowhere, and today I'll give you my first history lesson. We'll find out what game we lost, what game we gained, and how it all looked from the outside. The history of the past within arguably began with success of Cube Escape Paradox, released on the 20th of September 2018. For reference, this was not just a game that set a new buff of the series, nor just a short film that shot pretty well, I must say. It was a crossover of this, and you shouldn't consider them otherwise than in tandem. Seemingly, Rusty Lake could relax, further releasing the usual premium games, only occasionally giving fans a simple room escape for free to be beaten in an hour. But no. They, as true artists, wanted to create for real. Screw stagnation, screw the formula that has been feeding them for 3 years. The Paradox experiment was just a beginning. And experiments that followed have already resulted in several projects, one of which is in fact the past within. It all started with Flash dying. Not this one. Now we're talking. For many, this technology became the door into game development, including Rusty Lake. But just like any technology, by that time it was already pretty outdated, and Adobe decided to take it off life support, with a 2-year notice. Despite the fact that the studio itself was relatively unaffected, only the browser versions of the first 9 Cube Escapes would stop working without any other release on PC. The guys thought about switching the engine, and the choice fell upon Unity. The first attempts began with a remake of Samsara Room, the spiritual progenitor of the entire Rusty Lake series. It was on the occasion of the upcoming 5th anniversary of the studio. Just think about it. Unlike Flash, Unity supports 3D. So the developers wanted to take advantage of it, by making the world outside their usual 2-dimensional cubic room 3-dimensional. As a result, months later, approximately by the end of 2018, it was decided to make a completely separate project using 3D, and not to bother Samsara Room with the yet unfamiliar technologies. Although the 3-dimensional cube actually did make it into the release trailer after all. Subsequently, this brand new project was featured on the following New Year roadmap, with the expected release date sometime in 2019. Mammoth leaves. Also, there's another element taken directly from Samsara Room. A round hole like in a shoebox through which one could look inside the cube, dubbed as a peephole. As the central character of the new game, the choice fell on Albert, the damn charismatic bastard from Roots. His story seemed complete. And if the new game weren't so innovative, I would accuse Rusty Lake of cheap fanservice. But I won't. Good job, actually. We can get an idea what this game was supposed to look like from a teaser released on Albert's birthday, and also from the Halloween one. In addition to that, a raw demo was shown at Gamescom 2019, which was also discussed on Reddit. There was also a small demo of the 3D game featuring Albert, simply called Albert in the tablet's home screen. There is a table in a room with a weird mechanical cube on it with tubes and gears all over it. Inside the cube stands Albert, next to another table. The goal is to fix the tubes and gears to get a small cube from the outside into the inside. You can rotate the cube and zoom in on stuff, and you have to actually drag the item from the inventory. The small cube lands on the table inside the big cube, and Albert looks at you. Then the game zooms into it and restarts. So the idea was to combine 2 worlds, the inner 2D and the outer 3D, and build puzzles on their interaction. Basically, pull a lever outside to light up a bulb inside. Unfortunately, both the room from the teasers and the mechanical cube didn't make it into the release. The concept was changed several times, keeping only the general idea and Albert. But, a fun fact, those green wallpapers with cubes and goats were involved in another experimental game of the time, The White Door, in the manager's office, which gave rise to theories. I guess they are futile now. A special mention is deserved by the work with sounds, which from some point was held in parallel. The music, as always starting from Rusty Lake Hotel, was written by unchanging Victor Pudzilar. Rusty Lake met him by chance. They just occupied neighboring offices, and since then it's simply impossible to imagine Rusty Lake without Victor. And yeah, I'm actively using his music too. However, this time around, everything went not so smoothly. The composer had an accident, after which he recovered for a long time and didn't go to work. But no reasons to worry. The guys brought his synth directly to his place, and he exceeded all expectations. He already got the hang of the music for the usual 2D levels. But in addition to that, he managed to masterfully nail a completely new atmosphere of 3D. Another new addition to the series is the professional sound design. So far, Rusty Lake games seem to have mostly relied on stock free-to-use sounds, with only a few exceptions. But this time they contacted the pros at Driftwood Audio. The developers claim that the game has more than 200 unique sounds, which for me looks like a step towards quality improvement. So time passed. The development continued, playtests were carried out. For the next convention, PAX East 2020, they polished one of the new levels, a cube looking like a tombstone. Also, they revealed the game title, basically The Past Within. At the time they weren't vocal enough about that, so the information did not reach the mass player. Judging by the photos, the concept of a shoebox with a peephole was still relevant at the beginning of March 2020. But soon enough, it's been expecting a dramatic change. Although the decision was made about a month later, the players could only find out about it on the new year 2020-2021. And what do you think? Albert personally came out to greet us. Despite your hand in my demise, I'd like to wish you a happy new year on behalf of myself, my daughter Rose, and the Rusty Lake team. I hope you are prepared to rectify your previous error in the coming year. Because remember, the past is never dead. Many happy returns, Albert. Postscriptum. Decode my message and prove your worth. The devil is in the details. So here's basically the message. Technically a crossword that can be easily solved if you put a postcard from the post beginning over it. And the solution is The Past Within. The name of the game was announced. Officially this time. In the end, the developers hinted that Albert expects us to bring friends next time we visit Rusty Lake. And what is that about? Despite the fact that the players actually liked the shoebox idea, the developers themselves were dissatisfied. They lacked certain elements. What were that exactly remained a mystery. And about a month later, a new idea emerged. To separate 2D and 3D between two players. Introducing a multiplayer experience like TikTok and Keep Talking Nobody Explodes. Everyone has only to choose who plays in the conditional past and who takes the conditional future. This concept change forced the developers to abandon the tombstone, as they had done earlier with the Clockwork Cube. The players could clearly feel how The Past Within multiplayer should work on the 23rd July 2021. When, along with one of the devlogs, the developers posted a two-picture puzzle that had to be solved by a team of two. On their own, they were simple and boring, solved in seconds if alone. But as soon as you divide the big picture between two players and make them actively describe to each other what they see, everything immediately starts playing with new colors. From then on, the players were simply obliged to follow Albert's advice. and that became a reason for discontent. Technically, that meant they had not to just purchase a new game, but also convince their friends to do the same. Completing the game on a single device, switching between perspectives as one can do with 2 chapters of Paradox, is absolutely not an option for completely artificial reasons. In order to somehow smooth things over, Rusty Lake suggested looking for partners on their Discord. They even created a bunch of voice channels specifically for such gaming sessions. After all, it was a good alternative, but not without flaws. Playing with strangers is still a lottery. Somebody may not get along, somebody will want to find all the secrets in one sitting, somebody will definitely blank out, somebody will face a language barrier. All these measures to facilitate the search of a partner look like spitting into the wind. But you know, I respect it for the sole intention of the developers to break the pattern, even though it's a shame to look at all this. When they finally decided on the direction, further development went smoothly, and the guys could redirect their attention towards the community. The first blog post regarding the renewed game came out on September 6, 2020, giving an early indication what exactly we were to expect from the game. The first screenshot of what was clearly a room in the Vanderbilt house shortly after Albert's death. The coffin in the picture wouldn't lie. But what's confusing, the photo was mirrored, and it was unclear if this was a mistake or the developers were trying to say something. Because later, we got 2 more versions of this picture. The scar was already on its place on both of them, but on the earlier one, Albert was clearly looking somewhere else. Spoiler alert, even if they indeed tried to say something, that didn't survive till release. In the final game, it's just a painting. Then, the aforementioned New Year's greetings came out, with the first hint towards multiplayer. And later, in the same January, we finally got digital store pages with a bit raw promotional materials, one of which presented Rose as the supposed protagonist. Also a logo, quite similar to the one on the roadmap released after Paradox, a new release date, the second quarter of 2022, and the first teaser trailer of the final concept. Finally, we could take a closer look at the expected game. Both the room with Albert's coffin and the cubicle device that looks a lot like the White Dog computer. Despite the devs previously doing live shooting with actors for the Paradox trailer, they shot a whole movie back then. This time, however, it was just for the game's sake. Another bar raised. On April 9th, 2021, an early concept art of 3D cubes was posted. Can't say for sure what their status was. Of course they were dropped. The question is, how early? For us it's important, cause it was the first sign, heralding a new community communication strategy. The openness strategy that made this video possible. Because the first devlog came out towards the end of the same month, on another Albert's birthday. It spoke about their initial Peephole idea. The following 3 issues were coming out once a month and a half on average. They respectively revealed some tidbits about the guys mastering 3D with the Tombstone Cube, the difference in designing puzzles for 2D, 3D and multiplayer, also sharing the sample puzzle, and how they playtested their games during COVID. I won't dwell on these devlog issues any further, since their content has already been mostly covered earlier in this video. But the first devlog of 2022, having come out in February, is more interesting here. It came out along with a new trailer and spoke about its production. This time, the developers will land a lovely forest cabin, and the roles of the past within players were performed by professional actors from Hoing Images, having experience of working on such videos. At the same time, the logo and the promotional materials were updated, getting their final look. At the end of February, Rusty Lake did something completely unexpected. They released a Free the Past Within demo as part of Steam Next Fest. The fans could touch both the past and the future with their own hands. The protagonist of the past was definitely confirmed. It turned out to be Rose indeed, the test tube daughter of Albert, who in a sense caused his death. As for the protagonist of the future, we've got a hint. A username. Also Rose. However, many, including myself, didn't take it seriously. We thought it had to be Albert's spirit, using the most breakthrough technology in the world of Rusty Lake, contacting Rose through time, and asking her for help with some kind of experiment. The demo was short, but I think it captured the spirit of the upcoming game very well. The developers didn't even let us down with a signature secret of theirs. On the other hand, the demo made the aforementioned multiplayer problems tangible. Initially, they wanted to remove the demo at the end of the festival, but later on decided to keep it accessible. And I think they were right. That let them keep the fanbase interested for longer, and as far as I get it, will give doubtful players a feel for the game, perhaps convincing them to buy it in the end. The next devlog was about sounds and the music, coming out in June, at the end of the second quarter. So another release date delay was not a surprise. Exporting 2D levels from Flash to Unity wasn't without challenges, and took longer than the devs anticipated. Funny to admit, but even the demo was entirely made with Flash. They used a 3D imitation technique, which, by the way, they are known for from the very beginning. In addition, they were simultaneously working on at least one other game, the development of which, according to them, is going all according to plan. They did not share a new release date for The Past Within, just quietly changed it to fall 2022 in the stores. They said they would work on demos for summer conventions, test them on the spot, and then we'll all see. And we actually saw at the end of September. Rusty Lake released another trailer, and they have outdone themselves. They have never had such kick-ass editing before, smartly showing what to expect. Yeah, the date. It's the 2nd of November. Next up until November, nothing particularly interesting happened. The demo became accessible on mobile as The Past Within Lite, and the final Q&A devlog was announced and published not long before the release. The chosen question seemed stupid to me, as a loyal fan having been following all the shenanigans. It was effectively a simple digest of the previous devlogs, while I was trying to clarify some extra lore. Although I have to admit, that was the right thing to do on Rusty Lake's behalf, for the vast majority of the player base doesn't read devlogs, and had no way to know that the upcoming game would be a multiplayer without any type of connection. As for November, the day before the release, a weird livestream was aired. A recording of a cube connected to an old computer in a room looking a lot like the future level. Soon enough, it was revealed to be a Steam key giveaway. But besides that, a rabbit hole into yet another ARG. But that's the story for another day. The following day, the game itself was finally released. The release trailer wasn't as cool as the one before, but it featured the room seen during the livestream. I finished the game the same day, and I was satisfied. You can see the playthrough here on my channel. Here was Nowhere, giving you a history lesson. Hopefully not the last one, and the developers will keep on sharing devlogs on future games too. Leave a like and subscribe to the channel, especially if you don't want to miss my first thoughts on the game itself, gameplay, audio-visual, and most importantly, theories. If you want to further discuss the games with me, look for me on the Rusty Lake subreddit and the official Rusty Lake Discord. The links are in the description. And remember, question everything in Rusty Lake.